Hey you guys, welcome to the Flash After Show, where today we're talking about Season 1, Episode 12, entitled Crazy for You. Cause I'm crazy for you! That was Madonna. Anyway, we're gonna go around the positives and the negatives of stuff about this week's episode of The Flash, and we're gonna talk about this shit. So let's jump into it. Uh, First off, in the beginning of the episode, with last week's episode ending, where Hartley was telling Cisco that he knows where Ronnie is, and I'm like, is Cisco actually gonna let him out, or is he gonna keep him in? Well, in the beginning of the episode, Cisco is just not budging. He's refusing to let Hartley out, and of course I like that. But a little bit on in the episode, Cisco decides to let Hartley out, and yeah, things kind of go from there. And of course, Hartley kind of keeps his end of the bargain, but he attacks Cisco, and Cisco just kicks his ass for a minute. And I know in the comic books, I guess Cisco becomes a superhero called like Vibe or Vibe. I think that's his name in the comics. Uh, but if they're gonna actually do that on the show, that would be awesome. But yeah, Cisco's got some moves, man. That was pretty cool. Um, of course, the first encounter with Flash and this week's villain, who was called Peekaboo. Um, I don't know anything about the character of Peekaboo. I was kind of hoping that they would not have the name Peekaboo, like change it to something else for the show. But oh well, whatever. Peekaboo. That's just all right. But that first encounter, of course, with Flash and every villain that they have of the week is always cool, and this week was no different. Flash chasing Peekaboo around because Peekaboo can just teleport, and Flash's got a super speed, and I thought that was pretty cool. Um, and then Barry kind of gets shot, and he hears the bullet, and he grabs the bullet. I think just the tip of it went into his neck, just a little bit, but he was able to pull it out before it causes any serious damage, and plus he heals fast anyway. Um, but anyway, Barry makes a line that goes, "Well, I guess I'm faster than a speeding bullet." And I thought that was cool because, one, Grant Gustin is a huge Superman fan. I believe he said before that Superman was his favorite superhero. And, to make that little nod kind of to himself is like, I guess I'm faster than a speeding bullet. I thought that was kind of cool. Plus, it's DC, it's a Superman reference. That was pretty cool. Um, Iris and Eddie were seen together for a brief moment in this episode, which is cool because lately it would be all right if you forgot that Iris and Eddie were still together, because we haven't actually seen them together on screen. Like we talked about Iris moving in with him, and but it's been like one or two episodes that we've actually seen them like going out together. Um, so that was refreshing to know that, oh yeah, she's still with this guy. And then Caitlin and Barry meet at this karaoke bar, and they get up on karaoke. Caitlin's drunk off her ass, and of course, I love Danielle Pennebaker as the character of Caitlin, and have her to see her drunk, like shit faced drunk, going on stage singing "Summer Nights" from Grease with Barry was pretty fucking funny in my opinion. And Greg Gus has got a pretty good singing voice. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I think that I heard a lot of Grant Gustin women fans turned on by that across the nation. So, Grant Gustin's got a great singing voice. Caitlin, she sounded drunk, so that was cool. Um, and then Cisco, he kind of mans up to his mistakes about, look, yeah, I let Hartley out because of this reason, and it was my fault. I take the blame. And even though nobody else in Star Labs, like Barry, Caitlin, and Wells, they don't actually like blame him. Like they forgive him pretty easily, pretty easily. I don't know what's wrong with me tonight. Um, but the fact that Cisco was able to man up pretty quickly, like he didn't try to hide it for a while. Um, but yeah, he mans up. I respect Cisco for that. That was cool. Um, and then Barry and Caitlin, after their drunken night together, they decide that, look, it's time for them to move on. Because Caitlin really can't have Ronnie right now, and Barry definitely can't have Iris right now. But the fact that they're talking to each other and they're like, you know what, I think it's time for both of us to move on, and they're kind of hinting at a Barry and Caitlin romance together, which I would be totally okay with. I think those two would work great together as a couple. It kind of seems like that's where they're starting to go a little bit. Maybe not. Like maybe they're gonna try to start something and they're like, you know, it's not gonna work out, kind of thing. I hope they don't do that. I hope they kind of give it a chance just to see what could happen and to see how they would work as a couple. I think they would be a great couple, to be honest with you. It's better than the whole Ira situation right now, which is funny because this chick that he took out on the date, I don't remember what her name was. I know she's in the comics. And Flash fans are gonna, kick my ass for not knowing this, but he goes and to take this girl from Iris's newspaper out on a date, and Iris is kind of like, well, what are you doing here? And then this chick comes up and she's like, actually, we're going on a date. And Iris just got that look of jealousy. I'm like, really? Go to Eddie. Have your time with Eddie. This is what you wanted. You don't want Barry. You made that perfectly clear. Go be with Eddie. Let Barry have Barry time with whoever he wants. But I liked it, of course, because it's still in my positives. And then we got a couple more scenes of Barry and his father. There's one scene where Barry gets a call and we find out that his dad's been stabbed. So they go to the Iron Heights Hospital prison. Like it was the prison. I think it's the hospital ward in the prison. And there's, of course, every scene that they have together is always a great emotional scene, and there's just so much feels every single time you get those two together on screen. And yeah, that whole thing was awesome. Speaking of which, the second time he goes, actually, I'm going to talk about that in a minute. The Iron Heights, I call it the Iron Heights interrogation. He gets this guy, he kind of releases him from his cell to interrogate him. And I like that scene. He's like, look, you better move fast because the guards are coming. And the dude's like, all right, all right, all right. And he gives him the answers. I thought that whole scene was played out pretty well. Grant Gustin did a great job. That other actor, I don't know his name, but I want to give credit to him because he really made that scene work too. It was just a quick little moment. But I always like seeing scenes like that. And then Barry is back in the hospital with his dad. And I like this because, we all know, I think it's pretty safe to say that we all know that his dad knows that Barry is the Flash. Even though he hasn't come out and said it directly, we all know that he knows. And there's a moment where I call it Old Flash giving the new Flash advice, because if you guys don't know, the guy who plays his father is the guy who played the Flash from the 90s television series. So that was kind of cool. Like, look, if my son was, or if I did know the Flash, I would tell him this, and be careful, and all this kind of stuff. And that was just a great moment. Emotional, but also pretty cool that old Flash was giving new Flash some advice. And finally, the last thing on my positives, this might be a short after show this week. We've been getting hints here and there about a character called Gorilla Grodd. And Gorilla Grodd is one of the few Flash characters that I do know a little bit about. And so to see all these Grodd hints, I'm like, well, obviously they're going to use Grodd, but at what point are they going to use him? Are they going to save him for next season? No, it looks like he's going to be used for this season and probably towards the season finale. We see like these sewer guys walking in the sewers. They have the flashlight on the walls, and we see that Grodd has written his name on the walls. And all of a sudden, we see Gorilla Grodd coming out of the dark. We don't actually see him. We see him in the dark, pulling away these sewer guys. Excuse me. And it sounds like he's tearing them a new asshole. I can't wait to see Gorilla Grodd. I hope they start to use him like as a main villain very, very soon. Very excited to see that. And obviously Harrison Wells knows about Gorilla Grodd, as we've seen in past episodes when they've kind of hinted at it before, how Wells has like plans for Gorilla Grodd. And so I'm excited to see what they're going to do with Wells and Grodd together. That's going to be pretty cool. I can't wait. That was just an epic ending. I'm really surprised it ended with Wells this time, but I'm glad. I'm really glad it ended with Grodd. Um, the negatives. Let's talk about the negatives. I only have one negative. Um, the fact. Okay, so we talked about how Cisco was kicking Hartley's ass for a minute. But I said for a minute, yes, Hartley does come around, and ultimately he kind of he wins the fight between Cisco, and that's probably my only negative. I don't like the character of Hartley all that much, which he's a villain, so you're not supposed to like him, but I'm a villain guy, and I do like a good villain. To me, Hartley is okay. I don't hate him. It's just that I don't like love him as a villain. Not yet, anyway. He seems like he's going to play a bigger part. So maybe eventually I will like him. But just the fact that he was able to beat Cisco, because Cisco had some moves. I don't know. That's kind of that's more of just like a nitpicky thing. It's not anything big. So guys, did you guys see tonight's episode, season 1, episode 12 of The Flash, entitled "Crazy for You"? Let me know down in the comments what you thought about it. And I can't wait for Arrow tomorrow, and of course next week's episode of The Flash. And yes. Well, see you later.